Welcome back to the best of rSlash. Today we're taking a look at rSlash NuclearRevenge, where OP's dad kills a pedophile. This first story has been posted by Broken Wing Angel. Warning, graphic content described. Read at your own discretion. This has recently come to my attention through a family gathering, but it happened over 20 years ago. I live in good old sunny Portugal, in the Algarve to be more precise. And in the summertime, we do what we do best, which is spend entire days at the beach with our families. At the time, I was 16 and my brother was 4, and we had a friendly neighbor family, which was basically our second family, and they had 2 daughters aged 12 and 6. Maria and Rita, not real names, obviously. Now, we basically spend every single waking moment together, since we literally live a few meters from each other and our parents were pretty much inseparable and would spend their own time together since my dad was a fisherman, he still is, and the girl's dad was also a fisherman. Our mothers would do what mothers do together and cook, gossip, and whatnot. I was only 1 year old when we moved to the neighborhood, and a few days later, the other family moved in, and since we were literally the first people to move to that neighborhood, it was a brand spanking new community, still with half the brand new houses for sale, my parents befriended them very quickly. 4 years later, their first daughter was born, and I suddenly had a very loud and very active play friend as she grew up. Despite our age difference, we actually got along just fine, and over the years, we grew closer and closer, and with our siblings being born, we were as brother and sister as they come. Like I said before, summer days were spent in the beach, and this is where it all began. One day, mid-afternoon, we were all at the beach playing as usual when my friend's mom came to us and asked if we had seen Rita, since she was nowhere to be found. We said we hadn't seen her, and the last time we saw her, she was playing with some children next to our towel spot. Her dad was frantically looking for her, and my dad was looking worried too. The next hour was spent looking for Rita, while Maria was already crying because her sister was missing. My heart was pounding because this had never happened before, and they were both like my older sisters. Finally, after almost 90 minutes of searching, she made her way towards us and said she was playing with a few kids behind some rocks in the distance. This particular beach we were at was amazing, and at high tide, it was a swim paradise, but at low tide, all the huge rocks and boulders formed by the tides were visible and were awesome for some hide-and-seek opportunities. No second thought was given, and we all went home. Later that night, Rita's dad came to our home in tears and extremely furious. Turns out, Rita had been sexually assaulted by someone at the beach and was threatened with death if she was ever to tell anyone. Rita's mom found out when she was giving her bath and discovered her bodysuit. She wore one of these because her skin is a bit sensitive to the sun. Had a cut in the crotch area big enough to reveal her privates, and there was blood all over it. She was immediately rushed to the hospital, where the suspicions were confirmed that she was indeed assaulted. Even her dad was made a suspect after talking to the police, but was released after his wife's testimony. He was furious. There was someone at the beach we go to for years that had been snatching and raping little girls. After he talked to the police, they said there was nothing they could do since there was no DNA or evidence. Apparently the sick used a condom, and that the best they could do was send out a patrol to the beach, but the presence of uniformed officers would scare away the rapist. Days had passed, and the behavior of Rita changed immensely, and she started avoiding me and any other boys in the neighborhood. She would get extremely scared around adults, even to the point of peeing herself and crying uncontrollably. I didn't understand what was happening because during this whole ordeal, I was completely oblivious to what had happened to her. I only found out 20 years later. I knew something was wrong, since I had overheard both our moms crying over it, but I didn't know what it was. So both our dads started plotting revenge and to end that pervert's reign of terror. One night, as they were talking to each other about what they could do about it, Maria had sneaked out of her room and overheard everything. She approached them and said, "Is this about the man that hurt Rita? I can help." They both stared at her and told her to go to bed and forget what she heard. Maria insisted and said that she wanted the man that hurt her sister to just disappear. The next weekend, the 3 of them went to the beach without the knowledge of the rest of us and started exacting the revenge. Maria acted as bait, and despite being 11, she was barely any taller than Rita, so she could pass as a 6 or 7-year-old. And as she was playing near the rocks, it was low tide, both our dads watched from afar like hawks. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, there was someone beckoning at her from behind a rock, and as scared as she was, she approached the person. Our dad saw this and ran towards her. What they saw sent shivers down their spines. In the short amounts of time it took for them to get there, Maria was already gagged and her bikini bottoms were down to her ankles and the pervert was ready to go. He had a knife in his hand, which both our dads promptly took from him. They said he tried to make some excuses about how he found her like that and he was going to help her, but those were literally his last words. Over the course of what they said felt like hours, but was less than 5 minutes, they proceeded to beat the shit out of him, gagged him, stabbed him in his junk, bashed his head against the rocks over and over and over again until he was still. Then Rita's dad dealt the last blow and stabbed him in the throat, leaving him there as he gurgled his last breath. They left the beach, and Maria was shaking. Having almost experienced an assault like her sister, she started sobbing and crying in the car, but her dad managed to calm her down and assured her that her sister had been avenged. She didn't understand what had happened, but she was calm. When they got home, she was made to promise never to tell a soul, and this was their secret until now. 2 days later, the news of a body of a known sex offender that had been on the run was discovered next to a beach in Spain, and that there was no suspects since he was badly decomposed. Apparently, the high tide came soon after and took him away, which was a blessing to our dads. Rita still has nightmares to this day, but has had the fortune of marrying a wonderful man that helps and supports her, and Maria carries the secret up to this day when she shared the story along with our dads. We were shocked, and my mom was furious at my dad because he could have been arrested and our family could have been torn apart. Rita's mom started crying and begged her husband to tell her that he was lying and that she couldn't believe her husband was a murderer. Maria intervened and said she was as much an accomplice as our dads. Rita was not present as she was in the hospital delivering her first baby, and we all agreed never to tell her anything. Holy crap! Holy crap! That is the best parent story ever. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how easy it was for them to get away with murder, but at the same time, that pedophile had it coming for him. Oh my gosh. This next story has been posted by One Solemnly Swear. This is not my story, but something I watched on YouTube about. For those interested, it's BuzzFeed Unsolved. I'll try to post the link if I can. Also, sorry about it being so long. I tried to minimize as much as I could while painting a good picture. This is a story about Ken Rex McElroy, but before I start, you need to know a bit of backstory about him so you can see how much of a piece of shit he is. Backstory. This happened in Skidmore, Missouri in 1981. McElroy was injured at a construction site he was working at. He had sustained a head injury that was said to maybe be the cause of his behavior. He was indicted 21 times but escaped conviction each time except the last. McElroy would intimidate witnesses by parking his truck outside their house and watch them. Sometimes he would even show his gun. He also bragged that his lawyer, who was said to be involved in the mob, would prevent him getting convicted. McElroy sexually assaulted 3 girls between the ages of 12 and 14 and would marry them to prevent them from testifying against him. His third wife, Trina McLeod, once fled from McElroy to her parents' house. McElroy then burned the house down and shot their dog. He had 10 children from different women. His crimes would include assault, rape, arson, burglary, and child molestation. The last straw. One of McElroy's children tried to steal some candy but was caught by the owner, 70 years old, Ernest Bowenkamp, and his wife, Lois. McElroy began stalking the Bowenkamp family and shot Ernest in the neck. He survived. McElroy was arrested and was convicted of assault, but was freed on bail pending his appeal. After being released, McElroy went to a local bar with a rifle, with a bayonet attached, and made graphic threats about what he would do to Bowenkamp. The revenge. While McElroy was at the local bar with Trina, his third wife, the townspeople met at Legion Hall in the center of town to discuss how to protect themselves, about 60 people. After the meeting adjourned, the citizens decided to go to the bar and waited for McElroy to finish his drinks. When McElroy got to his truck and Trina being in the passenger seat, someone shot him multiple times with a rifle. Trina fled. No one but Trina called for help. Everyone was questioned by the police, but everyone denied seeing the shooter. Trina identified a man named Del Clement as the shooter, but he was never charged. The police never made any arrests. A man that terrorized a town so much and the police failed to bring to justice, having someone take justice in their own hands. Holy crap, OP. This is actually not that long, but it is definitely super duper intense. Thank you for posting. You've been listening to the best of rSlash. If you like what you're hearing, please leave a thumbs up, as that is the best way and fastest way for us to grow our channel. Also, if you didn't know already, we release videos and content every single day, 7 days a week. So if you want to hear more, please subscribe.